Hello and welcome to the Slate Strategy Sessions, a podcast powered by ReWorkflow for higher education leaders that run Slate teams at their institutions. I'm Jon Rowand, CEO and founder of ReWorkflow, and with us today, joining on the call, is Sarah Kotlinski from Gettysburg College. Hello, Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and to start off right at the bat, I want to give a congratulations again on your recent promotion to Director of Enrollment Systems and Analytics.
Thank you. I'm very excited about the new position.
So for the question today, we field questions from higher education leaders about issues they face related to their institution's use of Slate. If any of you listening have a question, we warmly welcome you to contact us at podcasts@reworkflow.com. We're happy to showcase you on a future episode. So, all right, let's dive into today's question. We have our first voice memo question coming in from a listener, David Dysart from Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey. Let's listen in to see what David asks.
Hi, ReWorkflow team. David Dysart from Stevens. I had a question. We have, a growing number of Slate users at my college with varying technical skills and backgrounds. What are some training and professional development tips for inspiring them to continuously learn in Slate? Loving the podcast. Looking forward to hearing the rest of the season. Bye.
All right, Sarah, this question is right down your alley. Those who follow you on LinkedIn or in the community forums know that your Slate Feature Friday post, your Lunch and Learn sessions, and the new Slate training group are fully running. They're in full effect. I'll say a lot of action. So we got a lot to talk about today. So the one thing that stands out to me about his question is the varying technical skills and backgrounds of people on the teams, on a team, excuse me. And so, could you share a little bit about your experience working with a diverse team in Slate?
I absolutely can do that. If you will indulge me, I would like to kind of tell a little brief story to sort of set the tone before we start,
Yes.
and just to tell you that I personally have felt very proud for a long time of the quality of documentation that I write. I think that it's detailed, it's image rich, and I feel like if you needed to do something, you could take a piece of my documentation, even if you'd never done it before, and you could kind of go step by step and do what you needed to do. And so when we had some consultants last summer who one of the things that they said was, your staff feels like they need more training. It was a little hard to swallow, right? At first I thought, come on, I write great documentation. Of course they're trained. But it was really important to take that opportunity to hear that message in a different way and to step back and say, no matter what I think I'm doing, if they're perceiving that they're not feeling trained, then I have some work to do. Mm-hmm. And so part of the things that I decided to focus on with all of the new training initiatives is just that question. How do you meet people where they are with different levels of technical ability, with different skill sets? So I think that's the question that David's really focusing on here. And one of the things that I have learned in this past year as a trainer is it's really important to focus not just on task, but also on concept. Mm-hmm. And I think as trainers, it's our natural inclination to go straight to task. And that's important, right? I don't want to say that that's not a significant part of what we need to do as trainers, but one of the ways that differing skill sets in diverse teams show up is in familiarity with different concepts. And so I think as a trainer, I think I would encourage people to take a look at what's people's background, what do they know about the concepts that are underpinning what you're trying to teach.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So And if it's helpful, I could give an example.
Please.
One of the things that I did this year that was really well received with my staff, we did a lunch and learn on Boolean logic, which I will tell you is not necessarily right up everybody's alley. Some people were like, well, this is really interesting. What is this all about? But there are people who have trauma, leftover trauma from high school math classes.
Yeah, I'm one of those. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But what I started to think about was when we look at training people on how to use filters and apply those in, for example, views in the reader, a lot of times the energy that we spend is really all about here's where you click to turn this on, here's where you can change what the filters are, here's where you turn this off. But if you don't have that basic understanding of ands and ors and set theory, you don't necessarily, it seems obvious to me how those things interact as you kind of layer them, but it's not obvious to everybody at the end of the day. And so our session was really on the concepts that underlie that. And we had a lot of fun with it. I mean, we had people we gave people identities. So, you're from Pittsburgh, you're from New Jersey, you have blue hair, you have whatever. And then we did lots of statements with ands and ors, and we said, okay, are you in this group or are you not, based on the phrasing of the logic. But then we would change. Okay, so it's basically the same statement, but we're going to plug an or in instead of an and. And you could see the light bulb going on for people as to starting to figure out, oh, wait a minute, now I'm in it, now I'm out of it. And so that was a lot of fun. But when I say task versus concept, those are the kinds of things that I would encourage people to think about.
Oh, yeah, that's great. And getting them active too. So it's not just like preaching to them, but having them fill a role and work maybe in small groups or what. I bet that really made the lessons sink in.
Yeah.
And this segues well into another phrase that keep coming back from our conversations that just really resonates with me too, is the don't make them drink from a fire hose, right? So you got to be intentional and strategic, I guess, with what your training regimen is. Could you speak a little bit more on that topic?
Yes, I certainly can. I think that a big focus of training is onboarding new staff. And when I say drink from a fire hose, you think about if you have a brand new admission counselor, maybe they're a recent college graduate, and all of a sudden they need to learn all of the facts and figures, all the message things related to your institution. They need to learn how to reconcile their P card. They need to learn where do they park on busy visit days. And oh, by the way, there's this thing called Slate. And in the midst of all of this other stuff, they've got to learn that too. And I think it's important to recognize that people are only going to retain a percentage of what you teach, particularly in a scenario like that. I also think with returning staff members or continuing staff members, it's easy for people to feel comfortable with what they learned when they first started or when they were first trained in Slate. But as you and I know, Slate is an ever-growing, ever-evolving entity, and so it's important to be continually training and continually learning and focusing on new features. And I think that beyond those initial training sets, it's really helpful to deliver things in bite-sized pieces. Because what you want to do is give people a little snippet of something that's germane to what they're doing in the moment and immediately applicable, and then it will become part of their personal toolkit and something that is natural to them. My Slate Feature Fridays are intended to be just that, and actually it came out of, I happened to see a senior member of our team teaching somebody how to copy a parent on an email to a student in Slate. So, you go to the student record, you click on their email address, the inbox window pops up, and they said, and then open another window and open their parent records and copy and paste. And I just thought,
Oh no.
there's a related
There's
address
a better
book right
way.
there.
Yeah.
There's a better way to do this. And so that was just a little tiny piece, and I thought, well, if I tell them or if I just put it in a text in an email, it's easy to gloss over. So I made this sort of goofy little graphic with the Slate Feature Friday at the top of it, and all of a sudden it was a thing, and then it's something that people started looking for on a regular basis.
Yes, and I'm one of those. And actually, to put you on the spot, I just thought of another fun fact question. I didn't look this up, so maybe you don't know it either. Do you know how many Slate Feature Fridays have you posted so far?
Oh gosh. Well, let me think. I started early fall,
Okay.
maybe 25.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've been doing them for about half a year. So
Okay.
I took a break for winter break, the winter holidays, but other than that, we've been consistent every week.
Wonderful. Yay. And I know you've listed two parts of your framework, your general framework, and we've talked about this offline. I think there's one more, right? There's a third piece to the training philosophy that you embody?
Yes, and that is absolutely make your training spaces judgment-free zones, right? Because if you want people to learn, you want them to be open and receptive and not defensive. And so, for example, had I shamed that staff member who said, if I'd been like, well, that's a really dumb way to do it. Why are you doing it that way? That person is not going to feel excited and engaged and ready to learn. But if I could say, hey, this is so cool. Look at this other way you can do it. Okay, then people are more receptive. I also think it goes back to that comment that I made early on about, which is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but also at the same time true, with people having some trauma about past learning experiences. You will have people in your group who will soak this up like a sponge, and for whom the Slate work is almost second nature. But you're going to have people that have to work really hard at it to get it. When you think about your goal as a trainer, your goal is not, oh, check off this box, I did this. Your goal is, I want these amazing, charismatic, fantastic human beings who are the emissaries of my institution's message to feel confident that they have what they need to do the kind of personalization that they want to do. And so it's really important. A little competition is fine, but you don't want to create a situation where people feel like, oh, I'm the loser, I'm never going to get this right. You want a situation, or you want to create an environment where people feel empowered to learn.
Amen to that. It's so true. Yeah, and relatedly, and speaking about time before, and joking about that, I mean, you have all of your director duties, and then all this extracurricular duties that you're doing. But then, I mean, we commonly hear, in my experience, not only at ReWorkflow, but back when I was working for institutions as well, it's like, where do I find the time to carve out in the day to give training or to do documentation? So maybe you could share a little insight on your process, like how you find the time.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think that there are actually two levels to my answer to this question. So one is a practical level, and then one is a more philosophical level. On a practical level, I am an absolute committed time blocker. Every Sunday, sometime during the day, I'll spend an hour looking at the week ahead and plugging in time slices for all of the things that I need to do, because as a director, my meeting schedule is ever growing. And if I don't create and carve out spaces to do these other things, like the creative Slate builds that are so key to our institution's growth, or to the training and development pieces of what I'm doing that are really also key to our success because they empower our staff. If I didn't do that time blocking, it wouldn't happen. I will also say that there's a quote that is a sort of a personal touch point for me. Voltaire said that the perfect is the enemy of the good. And that has been something that I've really tried to take to heart because if you've seen my stuff on LinkedIn, we are not talking polished graphics here, okay? We are talking, I used to do my church newsletter and I learned Microsoft Publisher and that's what I use. It's good enough. I use the same color sets and fonts and things, so there's a little bit of consistency, but beyond that, what matters is that I get things out there in the hands of my users that are helpful to them. It doesn't matter the production quality or that it's polished. And so that's another piece that's really important.
Yes.
Oh, so and then I guess I would go on to say I wasn't sure if you're going to respond to something there. That philosophically, I think as humans, we make time for the things that we care about.
Yes.
And going back to that story from the beginning of this conversation, having that experience where people called me out and said, your training is a little bit lacking. People need a little bit more. And I started really thinking about it and just felt like I care so much about these people that I work with. I want them to thrive, and this is an opportunity that I have to do that for them, and so it matters to me, and so I make time for it for that reason.
Yes, yeah. I was going to joke before about my better half, Ben, how she says the same things to me about perfection or, just get it out there. Just we find to learn from. And she's always the one to meet deadlines and all that. So she gives me a hard time back from our master's studies and everything. But yeah, and if you're passionate about it, then you'll make time. And so as a leader, I completely agree with you. Like leaders should find that passion if they can. I know it's easier said than done, but that's the first step to finding time to be able to do documentation and training is to find that. And relatedly, you spoke about Microsoft Publisher or other tools, tools that you use. So that's I wanted to ask. I love geeking out about tools, and that's another approach to efficiency or optimization for documentation and training. Any other tools, like maybe for your time blocking or the things you use to help?
So my other thing, I started using this, I think, right around the turn of the year. I switched my task manager app to something called Tick. Tick as in like time is passing kind of tick. Yes. And it is so fantastic. I just love how easily I can integrate my work priorities, my personal priorities, and then all of those kind of passion project things that matter to me, how I find the place to fit those in. I built a ticketing system in Slate a couple of years ago for Gettysburg, and so it was an easy bolt-on. So now I've got a link within my ticketing system that pushes things out, all my Slate tickets out to TickTick. And then conversely within TickTick, there's a link that I can just kind of hop right back in. So when I get 20 tickets from my boss about updating different reports and things like that, and some of them have due dates 3 months out, it's easy for me when it's time to kind of bring those to the forefront and focus on them. It's easy for me to find the details about them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I've never heard of TickTick other than when you shared with me before the call. So I'm glad you brought that up again. We'll put that in the notes, the show notes for everyone to check out. And oh my gosh, Slate Ticket Systems is one of my favorite topics. We're going to have another conversation just on that.
Yeah.
Great. Well, this part I've been waiting for this whole conversation because it's been an exciting month in the Slate Community Forums with your new group that you launched just on training itself. And you had a recent data boot camp held by Ben Parsons, right? So if you can just catch everyone up who happens to be living on a rock and didn't see all this excitement happening.
Yeah, so a year, not even a year ago, I guess it was maybe around December last year, I was getting a lot of engagement with some of my LinkedIn content, and so I said, hey, would anybody like to get together and have a little virtual conversation? And we had maybe 10 of us were in that initial conversation, and one of the takeaways was we need a more formalized space for this to happen because people do care about it. So I pitched the idea to technicians, and we went back and forth, and I worked with Paige and Kim from the community support area, and they really helped me to think through lots of logistic things and put together this new training community, which people can find if you go to the Slate community and then join groups. It's in the functional area. So I think the default when you first go to join groups is the regional groups.
Yes,
but
I think you're right.
There's a button that you can switch over to the functional groups. And I was really nervous the night before launch, which, by the way, was exactly 1 month ago from the time that we're having this recording session. I was thinking, what if I've oversold this? What if Paige and Kim are going to be disappointed? And they've put all this work in, and I was really, really hoping that 20 people would engage. If we got to 30, I would have felt over the moon.
Yeah.
As of today, 1 month later, we have 376 active members. We just had our first virtual session, which Ben Parsons from College of the Holy Cross did a session for us on a data boot camp that he had held for his staff. I had seen that he had done something like that, and hey, inquiring minds want to know, come tell us about this. What went into your planning? How did you think about it? How did it go? What would you do differently? We had over 100 participants. That was last Friday. And there are all sorts of conversations that are happening in the community. Right now, there's one that's on using Scribe or other documentation software that's been really interesting to see what people are using, what they like, what they don't, what considerations are going into those choices that they're making as they're building documentation for their staff. So yeah, it's so exciting to see this just having taken off beyond my wildest dreams. When I said passion project earlier, this is a passion project. This is something that really matters to me. And just to see the enthusiasm has been so gratifying. But I will also say it really highlights a need, that there's a void in what people have abilities to do. When you think about what makes a good Slate captain, what makes you grow in that role, you're skilled technically. That doesn't necessarily translate into being a good teacher of those technical things to others.
Yes.
And yet it always comes along with the role, always. And so people are feeling like there's this big thing that I'm asked to do and I am underprepared. And so I'm thrilled to be able to have a little tiny hand in creating a space where people can engage those conversations.
Yes. Oh, that it made me think of a real life fun anecdote in going back to Ben. She's going to be a VIP on this episode, I guess. But when she was learning how to drive, I was like, oh yeah, I drive all right. I'm sure I can teach it, but I was a terrible driving teacher, and I had to learn those skills. Eventually, my dad did it. But yeah, a lot of people have, and she learned very fast with him. But yeah, a lot of people have like the technical skills, for example, but maybe they don't have the training or the teaching and learning skills. And so we're super thankful, Sarah, that you worked with Technolutions to get this group going, to have that conversation as well, in addition to the technical conversations we've seen in the forums over the many years at Technolutions. 25, I guess, right? We have 25.
Yeah, 25 this year.
Yeah, so yeah. Wonderful. So yeah, we're coming to the end here. So I always like to leave a little bit of time to ask if there's like one more piece of advice that you would like to give higher education leaders, like a key takeaway from today. What would that be?
Sure. Oh, that's a great question. I think I would like to pose a question to our listeners, if that's all right with you.
Please, yes.
I want everybody listening to this podcast to take a minute now and think back to your early career, whether it was a really long time ago like it was for me, or whether it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. But think about who invested in you, who invested in your growth. Is there somebody that you can say, I'm where I am now because this person went the extra mile for me? I would bet that almost every person listening has a vision, has a face in their mind right now.
I have one.
My challenge to people is, as a trainer, you get to be that person for the next generation.
Yeah. Oh, what a great way to wrap all this up. Yeah. So listeners out there, keep that person in mind who inspired you and got you to exponential growth or your next chapter, and pay it forward. Right. Help others to learn, be it Slate or any other aspect of higher education administration or professional staff that you can help with. Yeah. So great. Okay, well, Sarah, let's also check how can people reach out if they want to ask questions or learn more or follow your Slate Feature Fridays. Yeah.
Any of those kinds of things, absolutely. I would say there's two ways. Well, of course, you can just go to the Gettysburg College website and go to the Meet the Admissions Staff, and you can find my contact information there. But first of all, if you're not in the Slate community, you need to do that, and then you can look people up and message them within the Slate community itself. I have a very unique name, so there's not two of me. If you find that name, it's definitely me. And the other thing is, please follow me on LinkedIn, please. And don't just follow, but reach out and connect. I love hearing from people. And that's kind of my primary platform where I push out most of my content now. I do occasionally post in the Facebook group or in Slack. But outside of the training user group itself within the Slate community, definitely LinkedIn is the best place to reach me.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you again, Sarah, for joining us today. It's been a wonderful conversation. Excited for many more, and we'll see you at Slate Summit. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Again, you've been listening to the Slate Strategy Sessions supported by ReWorkflow. I'm Jon Rowand, CEO and founder of ReWorkflow. And please visit us at reworkflow.com for our free resources along with all your Slate and staffing needs. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, happy slating.
Thank you.